Yo, what's up, guys? Video about Naraka. So I'm at my NA accounts. First of all, Naraka, you need 350k power. You are going to need 350k power, otherwise you're going to get hella kicked. Because this raid, you cannot get carried like White Castle. This is a lot more difficult than White Castle. I'm just going to run it right now, talk you through it. But first things first, you're going to need that 350 power. Afterwards, it's pretty much a pretty simple team that you have to build. You probably have most of these units already, but team compositions I will talk a little bit about later. In this case, I'm just going to focus on the run itself. You kind of want to dodge those things. I did a pretty poor job at dodging those things right now. We're doing quite some damage, at least Alucard is doing quite some damage. I'm doing jack shit. I'm actually hella messing up and shit. But you want to stay away from those fires. The moment you stand in those fires, you will get a debuff, which is that debuff that you see popping up here. The moment that you're full HP and you heal, you actually get rid of that debuff. So you don't necessarily have to cleanse it, you just have to heal it. Would I walk in this fire over here, you see that I start stacking these debuffs. That's something you absolutely don't want to. So about the boss, we're kind of just going ahead and clearing this thing. First thing it does, it pretty much jumps up. And in this case, we were standing and fighting here. I don't really recommend that normally. I recommend to stand actually somewhere where there's no fire. So either here or over here. So in this case, we have a second phase, and the second phase is, I think Alucard actually DC'd. Everyone should take a line and which these monsters walk into, and you have to clear these monsters. And I think Alucard DC'd because he's not doing jack shit. Let's see if I can actually hold two lines. I don't think so. But yeah, these monsters actually have a specific shield. And that shield absorbs damage, so the thing you want to do is either you have a unit that goes through shield, which is, for example, a Karambit, that is, for example, a Cassie. If you don't have that, you have to CC the units, and with CCing, you also remove the shield. So there's a bunch of options to do that. Let's see if we can still manage to clear it. I don't think we would be able to. So yeah, in this case, we messed up one shield. I think this guy is also messing up his freaking shield or seal thing, whatever you have to clear these monsters off. So we're kind of messing up this run. So that's also where you can see, like, everyone kind of have to stand their own ground, because if these things die, the boss will charge his ult a lot faster, and the moment he charges his ult, he flies in the air, he goes for an insta hit, and you're just instantly done. So you don't want that to happen. So everyone kind of has to do its own thing, so you don't really necessarily can carry people that well. So in this case, we still managed to do it when one seal was down. It is possible, but normally, like, someone takes this one, so I take that one. The other guy is over here. And most of the time, you want to switch to it. Like, as you can see here, the ult is pretty high charged already. In this case, we can probably still clear it, but it is more difficult. So he jumps in the air. After he jumps in the air, he will go for a cleanse. That's always important to know. Don't drop all of your debuffs before that cleanse, because you want to start debuffing the moment after that jump, because now he doesn't have armor break, or he got armor break pretty late and stuff. So in this case, we on NA have pretty much a lot of damage. Karambit is pretty good for it, and I think in most cases, Bastet and NFL will be pretty common for the rest of the team as well. So in this case, we still managed to clear it because no one was really eating too much of those AoE fires, and it was doable to clear it with just 2 seals. But if there's 2 seals down, so you only have 1 seal left, then you pretty much insta lose. So you definitely do not want that to happen. So, okay, that was maybe kind of like somewhat of a chaotic run, because the moment, it's somewhat harder to find a team here in NA, because you can do this one 3 times per week right now, and, well, the moment people just go in, you have to go in, kind of. So, first of all, let's talk about teams. So the main team you want to use for most people is going to be a Bastet, a NFL. Bastet everyone has, so everyone should kind of use. NFL, not everyone has. If you don't have NFL, go for Lulu. Or Shushu, both of them are fine. There's not really one better than the other. Lulu is better at cleansing. If the things are not full HP, then you still cleanse off the debuff, that's the fire thing. Shushu is better because of immunity, and because of immunity, I'm not sure if you don't get the fire, or maybe just like he starts off with a fear and you don't eat that fear. In this case, I was using Karambit. So another unit instead of Karambit for the waves, like if you don't have anything to go through shields, is going to be a Tractor. Tractor doesn't really need any specific runes as far as I know. In this case, I just throw like a whatever set or foresight on him. It really doesn't really matter all too much what you have on him. This is just a set to have him running and going for the moment. But I will actually use like my normal DPS unit. I don't really have another DPS unit than Karambit, so I'm still going to use Karambit in this case. We already have some of the joints. He already has Tractor in. You don't need Tractor in from the start. Like, that's something that I think a lot of people will be mistaken with as well. If you go in with Tractor from the start, that's not needed. Also, if you don't have 350k power with the specific units that you're going to use, the moment you go in with your units that are good, like Sekhmet and that kind of stuff, the moment you have your team set up, right away say in the chat, I will switch inside. So people actually know that you will switch your team inside. Because trust me, if you go in with Sekhmet and that kind of stuff and other units that don't have any place in this thing, you will get kicked. Because Sekhmet is just straight up useless here. Also, there are things like Chloe, useless. You don't want to... If people have that in your team, you're pretty much like dead meat. You're useless. Because those units don't really have usage in here. We'll talk a little bit more about other units that have usage as well. So in this case, we see that it goes for the jump and then it goes for the shield. During the shield, the most important thing you want to land is the damage taken up, which is the branding of this game. So that is this one. So as Orbias, maybe you want to actually wait with using your S2 and your S3 until that shield happens, and then you start killing it, or then you start doing that stuff. So in this case, we brought it down pretty far, but this is where the waves start. You can also see that the placement of fire is different from each position. So it's random every time the dungeon starts. And in this case, you could have lines that are more difficult than others. Like if you are known for yourself, like, okay, I'm pretty okay with the lines, or I'm pretty okay with killing those things, maybe I have a good unit for it, then it's pretty nice to say like, okay, I take like the more difficult line. In the case of Orbia, most of the time you want to switch to Orbia Ice, because Orbia Ice also has a freeze, and freeze counts as removing that shield instantly. So what you want to do as a Tractor, you just want to press your Tractor Q, you want to have your Tractor linked, and the moment they have to provoke, they don't actually start targeting Tractor, but you can see that the shield is instantly gone. And you could say like, okay, but I have like a different unit that shields or something like that. Totally fine, but the good thing about Tractor is he doesn't really need any runes. And he is very easy to just build. Plus, his provoke is on a 2-turn cooldown. So in this case, we're done with the waves. You switch off the Tractor. So you kind of have to get used of like switching on and off units. Unless you actually have that Karambit as main damage dealer. So in this case, I'm not sure what went wrong. Wait, did someone mess up? Yeah, that is the insta-ult that I think, well, all of the... Oh, that pillar is dead, I guess. Someone messed up the pillar and I guess we ate too many hits already. So yes, even with this, you can apparently still fail. This is a lot harder run, and everyone kind of has to do its own thing. Currently, I wasn't really paying attention to how well the other people were clearing their stuff, but it's actually really easy. It's not that difficult. You saw with the Tractor, you just switch out probably Bastet for a Tractor, you're keeping your damage dealer, and you're good to go. If you're a Cleave, you can just provoke them and you don't need to switch to a Tractor. If you're a Kina, I would definitely make sure that you keep your damage dealer in. You could say like, okay, I put Tractor on that slot, and then these two I keep in. But I would recommend for Kina, keep your damage dealer in, because Kina's pretty low on damage. Orbias are, I guess, okay with keeping, like switching out the Karambit, and then that way you can still kind of do it. So as you can see, if one person messes up, whole team wipe instantly, pretty much. It is important, therefore, that you have the correct team. Do not go in with a Sekhmet. Do not go in with a Chloe. The guy was using a Tractor from the start. That's useless as well. You don't need a Tractor on your wave. Also, as I said, you need 350k power. Let's say you don't have the exact power. Let's say this team. Let's say I have my team with... I don't have a Sekhmet, actually. Let's say that this is my team, and with that I have my 350k power. The moment you're in instantly, right, like, okay, I switch inside, then they know, okay, you don't have the exact power yet, but you have to get that bonus, otherwise people are just going to hella kick you for sure. And if they don't, they should, because you're just going to fill the run and waste people's time, including your own. But at that moment, you say like, okay, I will switch inside, and then at the moment everyone starts running inside, you switch to your actual units that is good for this, which could be your Karambit, your Argon, your whatever. In EU server, I will run something similar like this. In this case, he has a Croa, which just adds more damage, but it's kind of similar style. You want to go for your damage dealer, you want to go for your damage buffer, and then you want to go for support. You could say, if you're more of an advanced team, you could say like, okay, in this case, I don't use NFL. He has a healer. This person maybe has an NFL. And therefore, you can skip out on one NFL. And I go, for example, a Helia, because Helia is pretty nice as well. Because as I mentioned before, you need that def up, or yeah, not the def up, you need the damage taken up to go through the shield. Before you actually had to hit things that go through the shield, but it kind of forced you to build a Karambit or build a Cassie or build a bunch of other things. Because those units, as you can see over here, they have the... where is that? Yeah, everything is like this skill ignores beneficial effects that decrease damage taken. And she has that on every skill. Karambit has that in the passive or on every skill or something as that as well. So therefore, these units are pretty good for this boss. If you have them leveled, definitely use them. But in this case, my Karambit was my only unit, so Karambit on this account is straight up like 15A, like all the way, like maxed and that kind of stuff. Don't really recommend to go for that all the way on your account as well. I mainly did this because this was just my free-to-play unit, and I used the free-to-play unit pretty much. So that is pretty much most of it towards clearing this. There is a way that if you do enough damage before he starts flying in the air, which is pretty difficult to maintain and pretty difficult to get, but you skip like the whole wave afterwards. So that is possible, but you're going to need 3 pretty good people for that to clear that, and you're not always going to have that. Make sure that there's enough Bastats. I would recommend at least 2 Bastats in every team, because the shield is just very nice, because if you get burned, you don't start dropping damage that quite easily, or that much that easily. And remember that if you have the burning on you, 1 heal to max HP, the moment you're overfilling max HP, you already cleanse that thing. So you don't actually need a cleanser, you don't need NFL for that. But NFL is just very nice, because NFL also drops armor breaks. And because of armor breaks, you can go for the Orbia S2, S3, and Orbia S3 for the people that don't know it. Wait, can I check my Orbia S3 here real quick? Is there a way? Is there a way? Orbia S3 on this. So the S2, people probably know, is Death Break, but this one, if there is a high enough level of Death Break, it will go for the damage up. So that is the branding right away. That is 3. So I definitely recommend you to save this skill until the shield happens, then armor break, then do this, and then start hitting. I think for Kinas, you mainly want to use Kina Fire because it gives extra attack buff. For Cleave, I'm not 100% sure. You don't have to go for a specific element, as in like, okay, we're fighting a freaking Zyros, I need to be ice. No, that doesn't matter. The Zyros is non-element. It's called Naraka, but whatever, you understand me in that one. So yeah, like I'm going in with Orbia Wind, which is by far the best. The moment the waves happen, you definitely want to switch towards ice. For Kinas, I don't think you have to switch in between, and for Cleaves, maybe you switch to something. So in this case, this guy I would probably kick in Euro because he has like a Juno in there. Juno's not going to do anything in this. Like, I have no clue why he has a Juno in there. So let's go for another run. Let's see what happens on this run. So, but the team is still pretty much similar, and this is just Argon with the skin. So in case you're confused, like, wait, who the hell is that? That's just Argon with the skin. So in this case, this guy actually also switched to a Karambit, which is good. So yeah, that happens pretty often, that inside people actually start switching and then doing something. So in this case, we start off with a lot of armor break. That's good. You get feared. That's fine. You want to dodge those, because if you stand in those, you will actually get hit. And I think Alucard is AFKing again. The man is unreliable. I know that he's walking around. So in most cases, what I do, I don't really start spamming my skills as of yet. I kind of wait until that jump happens. And then after this shield, so I wait for the shield happens, and then I start spamming my skills. So what you could do is you could already like switch out in and out the unit. So you already have like the things on cooldown, but you don't want to use the mana yet. And then afterwards, you start DPSing, and this team actually has quite a lot of damage. I don't think we have enough damage to clear it fully. We were pretty close. We're pretty close. So yeah, that's something that's probably not going to happen in NA anytime soon, or in EU anytime soon. But yeah, that's definitely something that will happen at some point, that you just clear enough. And in this case, You can see that the fire is like pretty much in the wave. Don't start fighting the units over here, sending your karambit in there, going for all kinds of fancy shit, because you start taking the damage. If you are like pretty much close to dying, always go to this thing, because this thing actually gives you a buff that medicates all of the damage. So in this case, what I recommend you to do is just wait until those units are out there and then start hitting them. Also, you want to dodge these because that's also fire that's dropping on you. Pretty well doable, and then you start hitting again. So you can also check like, okay, how are the other two guys doing? Because, for example, let's say I clear pretty fast. Yeah, like this guy had a pretty easy wave, but he forgot one unit because he's a fucking noob. Just kidding, but yeah, he did forget one guy. So actually, he is like, okay, we're done right now. No, you actually forgot one. So it's important to check for other people, like, hey, are you not messing up? Because he actually messed up in that case. Doesn't matter, but it's good to check on like other people, especially if someone's like, oh, I'm going to help you. Check if the guy that's going to help you also did his shit actually properly. But yeah, then you switch back to this. So in this case, like if I use the tractor, I would be like, okay, I switch off and on my tractor, and then we go in for this again. So in this case, there's not too much damage left, so you just start spamming the damage right away. And this run was actually pretty fast. I think if we would redo it with this team and I actually remove my one of like if I remove my healer, I put in a damage unit as well, like a Helia, we probably could clear it like before the thing starts flying up. But that's a little bit more difficult. The boss is a lot more difficult. Expect a bunch of fails at the start. I will definitely be streaming. Oh, it's actually super close to my fastest run. Interesting. But I will be streaming it on the release right away and the days after it. So if you have any questions about Naraka, please hop into my Twitch channel and just ask. I'll also be like doing the leaf carries and just coaching people through this if they don't really get it for like the first few runs and that kind of stuff. So definitely check it out there. Hope you enjoyed this video. Once again, don't go in with Sekhmet, don't go in with Chloe, don't go in with any useless unit that doesn't help. If you don't have an Argon, if you don't have a Karambit, just go in with Naomi. Everyone should have a Naomi. If you don't have Naomi, get a Naomi. And if you don't have that, build a Lin. I don't know, like something that actually does properly damage. Okay, so a little bonus. Me and Alucard were talking like, okay, can we actually two-man this? Because you are technically allowed to lose one seal. And that is very true. So we're actually going to try to see like, okay, how far can we two-man this? Because we were thinking like, okay, if you have enough power, it's maybe doable. You just have to be careful that you don't charge too much of the ult. If a third person is there and he dies, he will charge the ult. So that is a pretty big issue, so which you shouldn't be happening. So in this case, we just still do our normal thing. Don't really want to get hit by those, because if you get hit by those, it's not the end of the roll, but he charges his ult, and that's what you don't want it to happen. So the less hits you take, the better it is. Doing the switching mechanic. So in this case, you see I did quite a bit less damage. So this time we will have the S2 and the S3 up the moment the shield happens. Waiting for the shield. Shield is there. Okay, S3 or S2, S3. Damage up. Now we can do more damage on him. We start hitting him pretty easily. So in this case, we don't really have to care about the burning, like either Anvil or the Shushu will cleanse that at some point. It's not really a big issue. Actually, Bastet was taking too much. So in this case, you kind of have the issue. That's kind of why you want to have more Bastets in there. You kind of have to switch to it and then heal it yourself. Still not enough because my NFL doesn't heal for jack shit. That's fucking annoying. So yeah, in this case, we actually have to do it with two people. Let's see if I can heal my Bastet. No, my Bastet has too much HP. Okay, that's actually annoying. So in this case, that is something that happens. And if that happens, you kind of want to stay or have that unit in there, and therefore it can kind of like take less damage. But issue is that I first have to heal off that stupid ass fucking thing before I can actually switch to Karambit and actually do some proper damage. In this case, we're gonna let that thing just fully die, and we're just going to see what happens then. As you can see on the team of Alucard, he's using the tractor with a healer and the Argon, so that's his damage. In this case, that one dies, so then they start spreading towards us, which is totally fine. I think he can handle his side pretty easily as well. Let's see. Yep, totally fine. We can start clearing this. So in this case, Orbia is not really doing any damage. Everything is like the Karambit damage for clearing those things. You also want to dodge those, but as you can see, every Karambit Q is just straight up a clear on that stuff. So let's see if we have enough or how much the charge of the ulti is right now. Issue is, if you had a third person... Oh, motherfucker. Alucard. Nope. Why is people not paying attention? No, if we lose this one, it's done, though. It survived. The sliver of hell. Motherfuckers. So, yeah, in this case, you have to run to the seal stone to actually survive. Man, that thing is like barely a sliver of health yet left, but that is fine. Let's see how much the ulti charge is at. Ulti charge is pretty full. I'm going to run towards him, and he's going to run towards me, so I run back. You want to be careful with this one so you get pushed back, then you don't want to get pushed back into the fire like Alucard did over there, because that's mainly not that useful. Actually, I wasted my skills over there. I should have waited until the jump happened and then the cleanse happened. So in this case, we're going to do less damage because there's no damage taken up. So I'm just going to use Karambit to burst through that shield with an ult, because Karambit actually always ignores that kind of shit. We did take quite some damage. We don't really have the good healing right now with 2 people, it seems. We have a heal incoming soon. Yes, we are fully cleansed. So ult is pretty much full. If we take a few more hits, his ult is going to full charge, which is not good. I think we have enough time before the full ult charge. Okay, in this case, we still have to do enough damage with Karambit. I think Karambit can kind of clean this up before the shield goes into full roar. Like, even if he charges full roar, it's not like a big issue, but you kind of want to save those damage taken up stuff. So a Helia is very good. If you don't have, well, actually, if you don't have an Argon, just go Helia. Helia is actually pretty good for this as well. So yes, technically it's possible to 2-man. Is it a lot more difficult? Yes, it definitely is. So can you carry someone? Yes, but if someone dies next to us, he charges enough ult for the boss to actually go ham, and then whole team dies, you wipe. So if someone just fails his wave, it's not an issue. If they die and fail their wave, it is an issue. If they just die, but they actually save their wave, awesome. So that's pretty much all of that for Naraka. Also, final thing about Naraka gear. Naraka gear you can buy as 6. If you're lucky, you're able to get a 6-1. And you can see the jump from 6 to 6-1 is pretty big. Again, you want to buy the 940s. You have a bunch of... Can we see the extra stats in here? What you get? Oh, yeah. So we can see that. So in this case, these weapons will actually give 1 extra skill for your ulti. The side weapons will give 1 of the random skills by research for 1 or 2 levels. I think the 6.1 is always 2 levels, but it's random. So you could have it that it's only doing it for fire, even though you don't really use fire. So the side weapon of this one is less interesting, but still it's a lot more stats on this than, for example, if you have the stats that is on this one. And then for the accessories, if you have the full set effect, it is Summoner Power by 185, which is pretty nice for Orbias mainly. For the others, somewhat less interesting, I guess, but since this is the highest gear you can get right now, getting this to 6 or 6-1 is pretty interesting for everyone. That's pretty much it. That's all there is to it, guys. Hope you enjoyed this video. Hope you enjoyed the Naraka update, and see you in the next one. Also, if you haven't yet, subscribe to the channel and like this video. See you guys.